What's up guys, this is Anthony from Everything Practical, and today I'll be doing a review on the Bowflex Bench 3.1. Now this video might be too long and you don't want to watch every single little piece, so I will be breaking up the video into sections. You can see these sections down below if you put your mouse over the timeline, and you can jump to the section which interests you the most. As always, let's get straight on into it. First thing I want to hit on is the construction of this bench because it is top quality. Now this bench has a very solid construction. You can tell first off by the weight, and second by the materials that it comes with to build the bench. That's right, to build the bench. You have to do this yourself if you're not buying it used already. The seat itself is made out of leather, stitched well. My bench doesn't have any quality issues on the frame or the bench itself, so I'm very pleased with the build quality of this bench. If you're buying this bench new, it's going to come in a few different pieces that you're going to have to assemble yourself. It does come with all the tools and bolts that you'll need to assemble this, but it is a little bit challenging to put together by yourself. If you have a partner, it will make it a lot easier. Just to mention the different pieces is this bottom piece. You have your leg piece. You have to attach the arm down here to the frame and to the bench. You have to attach the seat and the front supports, as well as the leg support way up front and the leg piece itself. As I remember, the directions were very clear and I didn't have any issues putting it together. It was just a little difficult by myself having to try and maneuver the bench as it's assembled because it gets pretty heavy once all the pieces are installed, and when you're trying to do the last couple pieces, if you try to pick up the bench or move the bench around, it is a little bit heavy for one person. So if you're buying this new, keep in mind you'll have to put it together. If you're buying it used from somebody that's already assembled it, then keep in mind that it's a pretty heavy piece of equipment, so you may need a little help putting it into your car or getting it out of the car when you get it back home. Now this bench is an adjustable bench. The bench piece itself is adjustable to 5 positions: minus 15 degrees, 0 degrees, plus 30 degrees, plus 45 degrees, and 90 degrees. Now this 90 degrees isn't perfectly 90 degrees. There is a little bit of an angle to it, but they consider it 90 degrees. But if we want to get super technical, let's say 85 degrees. The seat also has 2 positions, 0 degrees and around plus 15 degrees. So if you're doing any type of incline work, you can incline the seat as well to make sure you're not sliding off the end of the bench. Adjusting the bench is very straightforward and simple. You just lift the bench up and the arm will fall into the desired position, held by a very sturdy bracket. To change the position up again, you just keep lifting up the bench. And then the final position, all the way up, you need to lift forward a little bit and then you can sit in the upright position. Now if you're in this position now and you want to put the bench back down, you lean forward and then you have to pick up the arm and then set it in whichever position you want. That's simple. Now sometimes when I'm adjusting the bench up, it doesn't click exactly right into the support brackets on the bottom. Right now it is, but say sometimes exactly it'll happen that it gets stuck here on one side or the other. And you do want to check this just to make sure that while you're working out, it doesn't snap back on you. So double check this and you can easily just slide it over back into the support bracket so it won't fall over. Now to adjust the bottom here, scoot over. Also very simple, you just lift it up and it will fall into its position as well. Now putting it down can be a little tricky, at least for mine. I found that it gets stuck. I can't just lift up the bottom and then push forward this arm. It's still a little stuck. I have to use 2 hands and lift it up together and then set it back down flat. Now one thing I'm really not a fan of is this bottom piece that would normally hold your legs together. Because if you go to sit down and you want to approach the bench directly, you run into it and then you end up being a little bit too far away from the bench and it's a little uncomfortable as well. Also, when you pick up your weights to do an exercise, you're also really far away from the bottom of the bench. So when I'm using the bench, I 99% of the time have this leg support taken off. It's stationary, it doesn't move. So if you want to avoid running into the back of it or even tripping while you're holding your weights, which would be really shitty, I suggest to remove it. Now it's good to decide if you want to use this before you set this up, because it can be just a little bit more difficult to take this off once it's fully set up. To set it up, there's these plastic pieces that you put on the ends, and if they're all the way in, you could have a little bit of trouble trying to pry them back out. What I do, if I do decide to use it, I only put this plastic piece in a little bit. So when I need to take it off, I pull this plastic piece out, so then I have this plastic piece popped out, and then you just remove the padding, and then you remove the entire bar. And when I store it with the padding on, and then with the clip again, just in a little bit so that it does stay while I store it. So now with this gone, I can go all the way back to the bench, and I like to feel my legs on the back of the seat. So with that bar there, I wasn't able to do this. So when I get down on the bench, it's very comfortable. I'm sitting exactly where I want to for my workout. And also with this pad removed, I like that you can use this as a handle. So if you need to store the bench anywhere, you can just plop it down, grab this as a handle. I suppose you could do it either way if the pads were there or not, but since this is longer and you have a further reach, you have more leverage to lift up the bench easily, and then you can move it around with the wheels that are there on the back. And then you can reposition anywhere in your room. So to recap the review a little bit and point out a few of the positives and negatives, let's check out the pros and cons. Now first, the issues that I have with this bench. Most of these issues aren't significant issues, but they are things that I want you to be aware of if you're considering this bench, or maybe you need to look elsewhere for a different bench. First issue I have is I work out on a wooden floor. Now this bench doesn't scratch the floor, but it does move around. It would have been nice if Bowflex would have included maybe some floor grips on the backs and front feet of the bench, but this wasn't included. So when I'm working out or using my legs, particularly when I'm doing bench press, the bench will slide across the floor. So I need to either one, not use my legs so much while I'm doing bench press, or two, put it up against the wall so it's stable and it's not moving around while I'm doing bench press. Second, maybe you could tell earlier in the video, but I am not at all a fan of the leg support that comes with this bench. I do like the leg support for benches that you're going to use, but they should be adjustable and not fixed. So if Bowflex, you ever see this, or anyone that knows somebody that's working at Bowflex, mention that they should make their leg support adjustable. The issue that I have with this bench and that it's fixed is that you run into the support or the leg piece gets in the way to where you need to remove it. For me, as you've seen before, I removed the leg support altogether, but I did leave the main support on the bench itself, so it's easier to move the bench around. That I did find useful. But I've run into it also a few times with my leg, which hurt like hell, but in the end I would prefer if it was adjustable. So if you are looking at this bench, be aware that this is an issue. Another little nuance that I've found with this bench is that it's actually not perfectly flat. It sits at maybe 175 degrees, completely flat is 180 degrees, but the seat itself sits a little decline and the bench sits a little incline. Now when you're laying flat on it, you do not notice this, and if you do notice, you'll notice just a little bit in your back, but it's more or less flat. But where I have noticed this is when I'm trying to do dips on the bench. When I first was doing these, I was doing them on the bench part itself, and I could really tell the difference in height from one hand to the other. What I've ended up finding, if you do have this bench already, when I sit right in the middle of the seat and the back support, and then find an even spot for my arms, I'm able to find a comfortable position for doing the backwards dips on the bench. So if this is an exercise you like, keep in mind that this bench does have this little nuance to it, but you're still able to do this exercise with this bench. As also mentioned earlier, adjusting the bench does sometimes get stuck. Maybe this is a quality issue with the bench that I have, but I did check that I have the screw in straight for the mounting arm, or the arm that's on the back of the bench. It seems straight to me, so it just seems to be a little bit of a quality issue on the bench, but something I wanted to point out. So if you're doing a workout and you're laying back down on the bench and it's not perfectly in, and you're working out and it just all of a sudden drops really hard on you really fast, it's gonna scare the shit out of you, and that you just don't want while you're working out. So be sure to check that the arm is in, and if it's not, maybe try to readjust the bolt, but otherwise just be aware that this could be a problem with this bench. Now the biggest negative I have with this bench is that the seat is a little large. It's a little wide, it's a little long. When I'm working out with this bench, I find that I need to sit very far back because you want that back support from the back part of the bench. And because the bench is so deep and wide, When you're sitting on it, you may end up spreading your legs apart a little bit too wide and it might be a little uncomfortable. Now I'll leave the dimensions of the seat up on the screen so you can maybe try to have a feel of this, but keep in mind it is a little bit large to be comfortable. Now I have one middle positive, middle negative thing for this bench, and it is that the bench is a little long. But for the shorter people, you may find this a little bit too long of a bench. I've found this mostly an annoyance when I'm trying to do any type of shoulder press or behind the head tricep extensions, because the bench is over my head when I'm trying to do these workouts, and sometimes I hit the dumbbells that I'm working with on the bench itself. Like I said, it's up to you to decide if this is going to be an issue for you, but something I did want to point out. Now on to the positives of this bench. As I started off this video, the biggest positive for this bench is the build quality. Made out of very solid materials, you do not feel like this is a cheap bench at all. The seats are made out of leather, which is very, very nice, easy to clean, and easy to maintain. I lay a towel on my bench so I don't get it dirty, and also to maintain the leather. This of course is up to you. I also like that this bench is very easily adjustable. Lift it up, put it down within seconds. Some benches you find, say in gyms, you have to pull out some spring-loaded pin, adjust the bench, undo it, and sometimes it's just really difficult and uneasy to work with. This bench has the proper angles that you need to work out at and is very easily adjustable. I also like that this bench has wheels. Now because the bench is so heavy and that it has wheels, it makes it very nice to move around if you need to. So if you're looking for a bench, be sure it has wheels. And lastly, the main point and the main reason I ended up going with this bench over any other bench is the maximum weight capacity of the bench. And this is very important when you're looking into a bench. Many benches that I was seeing, the max capacity were not going to be acceptable for my weight plus the weight that I was working with. So when you see the max capacity of weights listed, it means your weight plus the weight that you're going to be lifting. If you're going to be lifting heavier, absolutely make sure that the bench can hold your weight and the maximum weight you're going to lift. This bench, as shown before, can hold a maximum weight of 480 pounds, which is 218 kilos. Now this bench is going to be good for most people, but definitely something to keep in mind between this bench and other benches. This bench can be found from a variety of different prices depending on where you are living. I've found normally between 125 and 250 bucks. If you have now decided that this is indeed the bench for you, there will be a link in the description below so that you can purchase through my associated links. So that's all I have for this review. If you think I've left anything out or have any remaining questions after this review, please do leave them in the comment section below and I will make sure to get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you do give it a thumbs up. And if you think someone else might have some use out of this video, be sure to share it with them. And if you really enjoyed this video and the style and content, be sure you are subscribing to the channel. This really helps me bring you more content like this. Last but not least, and as always, stay practical, and I'll see you in the next one.